I heard the sound of a kitten crying. Not the playful kind, not the soft mews for attention. This was different, urgent, panicked, and heartbreakingly desperate. I stopped in my tracks. At first, I thought maybe a group of stray cats were fighting over food. But no, this sound carried something else, something that felt like a cry for help. The cries came from a small corner, right by the roadside. I stepped closer, and my heart suddenly pounded. There they were. A mother cat and her two kittens, lying in the rough gravel at the edge of the street. In just a few more hours, this place would be buzzing with traffic. The mother cat was motionless. Her body was frail, barely breathing. Eyes tightly shut. Mouth slightly open. Her once white fur was now matted with dirt, and I could see every rib beneath the thin layer of fur. The two kittens were pressed tightly against her. One was wailing, loud and terrified. The other was silent, too weak to cry. The volunteer girl immediately knelt beside the mother cat. She opened her backpack, pulled out a clean white cloth, and laid it on the ground like a makeshift bed. She gently lifted the mother off the ground and placed her on the cloth, with the kind of care one would use for a newborn baby. Every movement was precise, deliberate. Not a single motion wasted. I stood next to her, heart racing, eyes fixed on everything unfolding in front of me. The kittens clung to one corner of the cloth, their wide, confused eyes staring at the stranger touching their mother. Tam pulled out her stethoscope and checked the cat's heartbeat. Her brows furrowed slightly. Too slow, only about 30 beats per minute, she murmured, mostly to herself, but I could hear the weight in her voice. Could be acute heart failure. Or severe dehydration. Without hesitation, she began CPR. Her hands moved in steady rhythm, firm but careful, like a piece of music practiced countless times. She counted under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had never seen anyone perform CPR on a cat before. Let alone on the side of a dusty road, with cars occasionally passing by. But she did it. No hesitation. No panic. Just unwavering focus. Every second mattered. After nearly 2 minutes, Tam pulled out a small oxygen tank and gently fitted a tiny breathing mask over the cat's nose. She still has a chance, Tam said, eyes never leaving the mother cat. I've brought back worse cases. Part of me wanted to believe her right away. Another part was terrified, because I had seen stray cats die in my arms before, despite doing everything I could. A minute passed. Then 2. And suddenly, the mother cat twitched. Just a small movement in her back leg, like a reflex. Tam stopped compressions and waited. Then, the mother cat opened her eyes, just slightly. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. I wanted to shout with joy, but I held it in, afraid to startle her. It felt like watching a loved one awaken from a deep coma. So fragile. So full of hope. So incredibly moving. Tam looked at me and nodded. She's not out of danger yet. But she's awake now. We need to get her back, now. Under the soft yellow light of the clinic, the room felt eerily still, only the rhythmic beep, beep of the heart monitor echoed, blending with the shallow, fragile breaths coming through the tiny oxygen mask resting on the mother cat's dirt-streaked face. The veterinarian gently placed the frail body onto the emergency table, her hands trembling slightly, partly from the cold, partly from nerves. The once white fur was now stained brown with dust, clinging to a frame that was little more than skin and bone. She took a deep breath, opened her kit, connected the 4-line, and searched for the thin vein in the cat's leg. As the needle touched the skin, she clenched her jaw to steady her focus. One slip, and the tiny vessel might rupture. The fluids began to flow, cool, saline life seeping into a parched body like the first drop of rain falling on cracked desert soil. She watched closely, every tiny flutter of the eyelids, every subtle twitch in the abdomen. The mother cat was still alive. But barely. The oxygen mask was adjusted to fit snugly over her nose and mouth. The vet placed a stethoscope gently over the cat's narrow chest, and her heart clenched. The heartbeat was weak, irregular. Like a melody on the verge of falling apart. Like a candle flickering in the wind. There was no time to hesitate. She began CPR. 2 fingers pressed gently but firmly on the mother cat's chest, just above the sternum, where fur matted with sweat and dirt made the skin slick. She pressed. Then again. Each compression careful, steady, not too forceful, but strong enough to matter. In her mind, she counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With every press, she poured hope into the little chest beneath her fingers. Each beat was a plea. A whisper to the fading life before her, "Don't go. Please don't go." Sweat began to bead on her forehead, despite the cool air conditioning. She leaned closer, pressing her ear against the cat's chest, her own heart racing, out of fear, urgency, and overwhelming tenderness. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Still, no response. She stared at the tiny face sinking into stillness. Closed eyes, barely parted lips, waiting for what seemed like an eternal sleep. No. She couldn't let that happen. Not while 3 kittens were huddled in the corner of the crate, clutching each other like they were trying to hold on to the last bit of warmth they had. Not when they didn't even know yet that their mother was dancing on the edge between life and death. She resumed chest compressions. Faster now. Stronger, but still precise. Her fingers knew the motion by heart, but her chest was tight with fear. She muttered under her breath, almost praying, "Come on, please don't give up." And then, like a miracle, a tiny jerk in the hind leg. Barely there. But she saw it. Her heart skipped a beat. She stopped, leaned close. A sharp breath. Then another. The mother cat's eyes opened, clouded, unfocused, but alive. A tear rolled down her cheek. Not from exhaustion. Not from strain. But from relief. She had pulled a life back from the brink, small, fragile, but as precious as anything in this world. When the cat moved again, just slightly, she whispered hoarsely, "You're back." But it wasn't over. She rechecked the 4-line, adjusted the drip rate. Added heart medication. Placed warm packs on both sides of the cat's body to raise her temperature. Every move calculated. Every touch deliberate. Then she turned to the kittens still curled up in the corner. The smallest one was trembling, its breath shallow, like a flame about to go out. She picked each one up, cradled them to her chest to transfer warmth. She cleaned their faces, wiped the crust from their eyes, and gave the weakest one tiny drops of fluid through the smallest syringe she could find. Outside, the city buzzed with its endless chaos. But in this quiet room, a silent battle was being fought, not for fame, not for money, but for something far simpler, far greater, life itself. Even the life of a tiny cat was worth fighting for, with every ounce of love, every drop of strength a human heart could give. 2 days later, I returned to the small veterinary shelter. The vet had invited me to visit the mother cat and her kittens, now officially named. The mother was Nana, and the 2 little ones were Shio and MIT. The small room still carried the scent of antiseptic and cat food, but to me, it smelled like life. Like hope. As I stepped inside, I saw Nana lying in a cozy little bed, with Shio and MIT curled up beside her, both looking a little rounder now, eyes wide open, starting to play with each other. But what truly moved me was the way Nana looked at me, not with the dazed, distant gaze I remembered, but with warmth. With gratitude. That cat, she seemed to recognize me. I sat down beside the bed and reached out my hand. Nana hesitated for a moment, then slowly leaned forward and gently touched her nose to my fingertip. Just a tiny gesture, but it nearly brought me to tears. It's strange how sometimes, animals can say more than people do with just a simple touch. The vet walked in, carrying a small tray with medicine and nutritional food. She smiled and sat down next to me. Nana is doing much better now. She's been eating, her breathing is stable, her pulse is strong. But she still needs at least a few more weeks to fully recover. I asked, and the kittens? She nodded. They're doing fine now. But it was rough at first. They were dehydrated, hypoglycemic, and a bit chilled. Even a slight delay and none of the 3 would have made it. I went quiet. I thought about what might have happened if I hadn't turned into that alley that day. If I hadn't heard the kittens crying. Or if I had just been in a hurry and walked past. Sometimes, life hangs in the balance of a few seconds. And we rarely realize when we're standing in one of those moments. She slid down to sit on the floor, leaning back against the wall. She looked at the mother and her kittens and let out a long sigh, not one of fatigue, but the kind that comes from carrying too many thoughts. You know, I once told myself I wouldn't take in any more strays. This place is too small, expenses keep piling up, and I've been burning out, treating injured cats, finding them homes. Sometimes it feels like trying to fill a bucket with holes. I looked at her. But you kept going? She smiled faintly. Yeah. Because there are moments like that one, when Nana stirred and opened her eyes. Do you know what that feels like? It's like holding on to a flickering candle just before it goes out in the night. I nodded. Maybe I understood. Or maybe I was just starting to. She looked over at the little family now sleeping peacefully. Her lips pressed together before she said softly, I'm not letting them go. I've made up my mind. I'm keeping them. I stared at her in surprise. Really? Yes. Nana is a mother. She fought to stay alive just to protect her babies. I can't let them be separated or end up with someone who isn't good enough. This will be their home.